Hey, this is Scott Frerking from Hill Country Fellowship with Jesus Loves Joe for the month of January. And we're looking at Jesus and the church. And today we have Jeremy Cotton, a local pastor also at Hill Country Fellowship, with us. And we're going to talk about Jesus and missions in the church, or really from the church. So Jeremy has no idea what questions I'm going to ask, and I forgot my sticky notes. So I'm going to try to remember them. But one of Jeremy's roles is to lead the missions ministry, both local and global, at Hill Country Fellowship. So the first question I ask of you is, why does a church need to have a global missions outreach if they've got so much need in the area?
Well, I think it's easily, I kind of separate it by two things, because it's local outreach fits in my category, but global, it so fits into that call of Jesus in the Great Commission. Hey, look, I'm empowering you to go, and he literally is saying, go to the nations. So it means to get up and move out from where you are local and to get beyond your borders. And I think it does a lot for the sake of the gospel. I mean, the United States has sent more missionaries than any country in the world. That's been one of the blessings that God has used. So really, that's kind of my angle. It's to go to preach the gospel, to lay hands on the sick and see them recover. And I think it gets out of your comfort zone too, of being local in community, local outreach versus global missions.
So like Weekday Ministries that hosts Jesus Loves Joe is a local mission organization that takes care of real needs, mostly for students who find themselves in a less than situation. So making sure they have a great life, and clothes and food and snacks and all sorts of things. And they have other parts as well. So they're local, and obviously so Weekday Ministries is gonna be for missions in the church. But playing kind of devil's advocate, if every church around the globe just did good local missions, and I'm not knocking local missions because we do a ton, but if every church around the globe would do local missions, what's the need for global missions if they'll just do their thing? If they'll just do what they're supposed to do, why need global missions?
I think it's this too. A lot of the nations we've traveled to, or you and I over the course of years too, you get there and you realize that the oppression or the poverty level where they're at, even the local church population has a hard time reaching that local people. I think that's the other thing on the global thing is sometimes it's really difficult to reach those people right where you are. Even I'll use South America, I'll use Peru because I've traveled there with David so many times. But to get there, the local church has some of the same struggles locally within that local missions thing. But you get somebody from outside the fold, from outside the normal day-to-day stuff, and it creates a great pathway. And the Lord really uses that to open up all these opportunities to proclaim Jesus, where they might have heard it 100 times from the local guy, but somebody comes from outside and all of a sudden they wake up to the fact of, oh, this guy's preaching that thing in Jesus that I've heard several times, and they step into relationship with it.
So our church, Hill Country Fellowship, support, 13, 15 global missionaries, along with all the wonderful local ones we get to be a part of. How does a church determine where to go and what to be a part of if there's just so much need? How do they figure it out, and how do they know it's legit?
Right. Relationship is what, if I ask several of our own missionaries within HCF, they would say it's based on relationship, and it's based on that time and connection. And because there's tons of good stuff you can do. And I think the other thing, so it's born out of relationship. I think you have to, as a church body or a ministry, you've got to prayerfully consider whether it's local or global, what God is calling you to. Because you could have 500 irons in the fire, but it might not be the 10 or 12 like we do here at HCF that we focus in. We direct our time, our effort, our missions trips that come from out of the church. So I think that's a very important role to fulfill too, because otherwise you can get running down the track on 100 things that are good, but God, what are the things you're asking us to partner with you in that's going to reap the greatest harvest for the gospel, whether it's local and or global? And I think also it's good to get out on global, because what you find out is what you're wired for on a global thing. And then I think the cool thing and the challenge in that is to come home and then duplicate that same type of missions fire, if you would, on the field, to figure out how you can pair that with your local church and what's going on, so that it becomes an ongoing thing. So it's not like stop, go. It becomes very fluid, and you do a lot better with your missions program overall.
Yeah, now I'm a former missionary. I believe missions and I love them. So I'm all for it, but because this is what I want our watchers, our audience to determine today. What if they go to a church and their church isn't really involved in global missions? How are they to be a catalyst and a positive push to see that happen in their church, to be globally minded? What's the best way to go about just some great person going to church as a life-bringing member of that church, but their church doesn't do it? How do they see that start?
Man, I would like to just shamelessly plug our missions conference, because I think a lot of time it's not that a church doesn't want to do missions, they just don't have that natural bend or the DNA that we had in time and coming up in missions. But in February on the 19th or 20th, you can hang out here, you can hear from about 13 to 14 different missionaries on what's going global, and then you global and local, and you can catch a vision for like, man, that's my heartbeat. Like South America, Haiti, Europe, wherever that happens to be, that angle of mission sounds great to me. Or even locally, partnering with Weekday or partnering with the Crisis Network or other great organizations that are doing work in our area. And then I think you can catch a fire for it, right? You can get excited and passionate about it. And this is the thing as pastors too, we always know everyone's like, hey, you should do this and you should do this. I think you can catch a vision for it. And if it burns in your heart for missions, then you could take it back to your church leadership and say, hey, I've got a heart to do this. I've got 3 or 4 other people that want to get on board. Could we start by supporting one missionary, or someone you have a relationship with, or you meet at a conference where you know, hey, this is a certified person, or we can help you certify some great opportunities to focus your time, talents, and treasure on the local missions front, on connecting you with missionaries. We know that when you invest, it's going all the way to the person at the receiving end.
Yeah. So Jesus in Luke 19:10 said that his mission was to seek and save the lost. He leaves that to us to do now as believers. And really that's the heartbeat of Jesus and missions in the church, is to seek and save the lost. And yes, in my community, in my town, in my county, in my state, in my nation, but it doesn't stop at any border. It's to seek and save the lost, and I can't always go to every nation, but I can certainly be connected with those who are going to those nations. So I challenge all of us as listeners to be involved in missions, to make sure our churches get involved in missions and be passionate about Jesus' mission to seek and save the lost. This is Pastor Scott and Pastor Jeremy for Jesus Loves Joe and Weekday Ministries. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, we're going to be talking about Jesus and community within the church.